The sun had no mercy that afternoon in Ollie. The sky was a dull, burning orange. The air was thick, so thick even the flies seemed tired. Adayabi fanned herself with one hand and held her bag tight with the other as she walked beside her best friend Nana through the crowded Ikali market. "Look at that lace. Perfect for your wine reception," Nana squealed, pointing at a shimmering wrapper. Adayabi smiled. Her wedding was only 3 weeks away. She had waited her whole life for this. Her fiancé, Ibuka, was a handsome architect with good manners and a good car. Everything was set to be perfect. Loud, rich, and unforgettable, just how the city liked its weddings. Then it happened. A soft whisper, barely audible over the sound of haggling women and rattling wheelbarrows. Adayabi. She turned around slowly. Standing behind her was a thin woman, her face lined with dust and sadness. Her hair was matted into thick ropes, and she wore a wrapper tied loosely around her chest. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. "Namarod Herais. Please, madam, we don't have change for mad people today." She tried to pull Adayabi away, but the woman grabbed Adayabi's hand. Her grip was cold and sharp. "Keep it simple," she whispered, her breath like cold harmattan wind. "Your wedding, if it is loud, if there are too many drums, too much food, it will not be a wedding. It will be your funeral. The spirits are watching. The ground is angry." Adayabi's heart skipped. Her hand trembled inside the woman's. "What?" she gasped. But before she could say anything else, some boys from the nearby bar noticed the scene. "Mama mad? Leave them," they shouted. One of them ran over and pulled the woman away, dragging her into the shadows like a forgotten ghost. Adayabi stood there, frozen. "Nana laughed nervously. She's mad. Forget her. Let's go and price that gold head tie. You'll shine like a queen." But as they walked away, Adayabi's mind replayed the madwoman's words. In her eyes, they weren't mad. They were tired. Tired like someone who had seen something horrible. And that night, as the city of Ollie snored and generators hummed in the distance, Adayabi had her first dream. A bride ran barefoot through the rain. Her white dress was stained with blood and mud, and behind her was someone chanting. It was her grandmother, and her voice was full of rage. The rain was loud in her ears. It pounded against her skin like tiny fists, cold and endless. Adayabi was running. She didn't know why or where she was going, only that she was barefoot, and the ground beneath her feet was wet and sharp. Her white wedding dress was soaked through, clinging to her skin like a second, heavier body. Mud splashed up her legs. Blood, too. She didn't know where the blood came from. All she knew was that her hands were shaking, and her heart was beating too fast. Behind her, she could hear it a chant. Low, angry, familiar. She turned her head for a moment, still running. That's when she saw her. An old woman. Her grandmother. But not the sweet old woman who used to plait her hair under the mango tree and sing lullabies at night. No, this version of her grandmother looked angry. Her wrapper was dark, her eyes wide and full of smoke. She had no eyebrows, no teeth. Only that voice chanting, louder now. Too many drums, too much food. The bride walks into fire. Adayabi screamed. Her feet hit something hard and sharp. She fell. In that moment, her grandmother appeared above her, kneeling beside her head. "You didn't listen," the old woman said. "None of you girls ever listen." And just before Adayabi could speak, her grandmother opened her mouth wide and screamed into hers. "You must stop this wedding." Adayabi woke up, gasping, sweaty. Her bedsheet was tangled around her legs, and her pillow was soaked. The generator was still on outside. Her room smelled like dust, heat, and something else, smoke. She sat up quickly. Was there a fire? No, everything was fine. The light from her rechargeable lamp showed her wardrobe, the mirror, her shoes. Everything was just where she left it. But her heart was still pounding. She picked up her phone. 2:12 a.m. She called Nana. "Hello." Nana's sleepy voice answered after a few rings. "I had a dream," Adayabi whispered. It felt real. Nana sighed. "About that madwoman, right?" "Yes," Adayabi said. "She was in the dream. But my grandmother was there too. Chanting something. Warning me." Nana said slowly. "I won't lie to you, Ada. I've seen that madwoman before. Not in real life. In a dream I had years ago. After my uncle died. She was running through a burning house. Adeobi felt cold. You never told me that. I thought I imagined it. Until yesterday. Silence. The wind outside rattled the metal windows slightly. Adeobi looked toward her mirror. For a split second, she thought she saw her grandmother's face staring back. But when she blinked, it was gone. Do you think it's a sign? She asked quietly. I don't know, Nana replied. But I think you should go and see your mother. Maybe ask her about your grandmother. Maybe there's something she never told you. Adeobi nodded slowly. Her fingers were still cold. I'll go this weekend, she said. I need to know why my grandmother would say such things, in my dream. As she hung up the call and lay back down, she didn't close her eyes for the rest of the night. Because deep down, something told her. This was only the beginning. By morning, the dream still clung to Adeobi's skin like sweat. She wore a bright blue top and jeans and tried to act normal, but something about her mood was off. Even Ibuka noticed it when he picked her up for their wedding planning meeting. Babe, you good? He asked, glancing sideways at her in the car. You look like someone who saw a ghost. Adeobi gave a small smile. Just didn't sleep well. Ibuka nodded, tapping the steering wheel. You need rest, oh. This wedding will stress you enough already. Wait till you start tasting jollof from 5 different caterers. She laughed, but it was a small one, the kind that didn't reach her chest. She thought of the dream, the chanting, the muddy dress, her grandmother's face. She should have told him. But she didn't want to sound crazy. Not yet. They arrived at the wedding planner's office, a small space on the top floor of a plaza in downtown Ollie. The room was air-conditioned and smelled of vanilla-scented candles. Gold and white decorations hung from the ceiling, and the planner, a woman named Mrs. Elsie, was already waiting for them. Oh, bride and groom of the year, she said, clapping her hands. This wedding ghost shut down Ollie. Adeobi flinched at the words. Shut down Ollie. The madwoman had said, if it's too loud, too many drums. Mrs. Elsie laid out the plan like a general preparing for war. A convoy of 30 cars. 4 different costume changes. A wine reception with celebrity MCs, drummers from the east, dancers from the north, caterers flying in from Lagos. We'll have a firework display during your first dance. Then during the final blessing, the choir will sing from the rooftop balcony. People will remember this wedding for years. Ibuka was nodding excitedly. Exactly what I want. Our families deserve it. But Adeobi felt like she was watching from outside her own body. Like she wasn't really there. Her eyes drifted to a corner of the room where a painting of a bride and groom stood smiling. The bride's eyes in the painting looked just like hers, wide, worried, trapped. On the way home, Ibuka talked nonstop about wedding cakes, hall capacity, and whether to order fresh flowers or silk ones from Dubai. Ada, he said suddenly, you're quiet. She looked at him. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think weddings can go wrong because of spirits? Ibuka laughed, short and sharp. Spirits? Babe, I beg, don't start. Are you listening to your aunties again? No. It's just, she hesitated. I had a dream, and someone warned me. To keep the wedding simple. Ibuka slowed the car slightly. Who warned you? Adeobi shook her head. A woman. I don't know who she really is. Ibuka looked at her. Adeobi, listen to me. This wedding is not just for us. It's for our parents, our community, my office people. Your mother has told the whole town already. We cannot do one small wedding and disgrace everybody. Are you trying to shame me? His voice had changed. It wasn't harsh, but it was firm. Oh, like someone giving a final answer. Adeobi nodded slowly. Okay. She didn't argue again. She just looked out the window as the streets of Ollie passed by in a blur. But inside her, the pressure began to build. And somewhere deep down, she could hear her grandmother's voice again, soft, but growing louder. None of you girls ever listen. The drive to Adeobi's mother's house was quiet. It was Saturday morning. The city of Ollie was already alive, horns honking, street hawkers shouting, and church speakers blaring from somewhere close by. But inside Adeobi's Bolt taxi, all she could hear was the madwoman's whisper. Your wedding will be your funeral. She hadn't told Abuka she was coming. She didn't want to explain. Not yet. She just needed answers. From someone who knew her grandmother before the stories died with her. Mama Ebel, her mother, lived in the older part of the city. Brown houses with iron roofs, narrow streets where children played with rubber tires, and old women sat on stools peeling cassava. Adaobi hadn't visited in weeks. The moment Mama Ebel opened the door and saw her daughter standing there, she raised her brows. Adaobi, you didn't call before coming. I needed to talk, Adaobi said. They hugged briefly before entering the house. The sitting room smelled like soap, powdered milk, and dust. The same green cushions sat on the chairs like they had for years. Nothing had changed. But Adaobi felt different, like she had stepped back into a forgotten world. Her mother poured her zobo and gestured for her to sit. What's the matter? You look troubled. Adaobi took a sip before answering. Mama, did Grandma ever curse anyone's wedding? Her mother blinked. Where is this question coming from? I had a dream, Adaobi said. She was in it, angry, chanting something about weddings. And then I saw a madwoman in the market. She warned me not to make my wedding too loud. It felt like a message. From her. For a long time, her mother didn't say anything. She looked down at her hands and rubbed her palms together slowly. There are things I didn't tell you, she said at last, because I thought they didn't matter anymore. But maybe it's time. Adaobi leaned forward. Her heart beat faster. When your grandmother was young, her mother began, she was supposed to marry a man from a wealthy family. The man's people insisted on a big wedding. Loud music, hundreds of guests, fireworks, everything. Your grandmother didn't want it. She begged them to make it small. She said her dreams warned her. But nobody listened. Adaobi's eyes widened. What happened? On the wedding day, her mother continued. The groom collapsed. Right there during the vows. Dead. Just like that. Doctors said it was a heart problem. But your grandmother believed it was something else. A punishment. She said the land was angry. That there was a spirit in our bloodline that didn't like noise. Adaobi gasped. After that, Mama Ebel said, your grandmother never remarried. She kept quiet about it. Only told me once, when I was about to marry your father. She warned me too. Did you listen? Adaobi asked. Her mother smiled sadly. I did. We had a small wedding. And we stayed happy until your father passed. Adaobi swallowed. Her throat was dry. Why didn't you tell me before? I thought you wouldn't believe. You grew up in the city. You people don't fear spirits anymore. Adaobi stood up slowly. Her legs felt heavy. Mama, what if I'm next? Mama Ebel looked up at her daughter, then said something Adaobi would never forget. If you want to live long with your husband, listen to the dead woman in your dream. The compound was full. Men were gathered in groups under the mango tree. Women moved in and out of the house, carrying trays of chin-chin, malt drinks, and peppered meat. Laughter, greetings, and prayers floated through the afternoon air. It was the day of Adaobi's bride price meeting. Tradition in Ali City demanded that both families gather before the wedding to discuss dowry, gifts, and family expectations. It was also a time to show off, to prove that the bride came from a well-trained home and that the groom was capable of taking care of her. But for Adaobi, everything felt wrong. She sat inside the parlor in full traditional attire, an orange wrapper with gold trimmings, a beaded necklace, and a coral crown resting lightly on her braided hair. On the outside, she looked like the perfect bride. But on the inside, she was boiling. She hadn't slept in 2 nights. The dreams had returned, stronger than before. This time she saw her grandmother sitting under a tree, her mouth filled with ash, her eyes white, pointing at Adaobi and shouting, "Tell them. Stop the drums." No one else heard it. Not even Abuka. Earlier that morning, she had tried again to talk to him. Abuka, she had whispered, I think we should cut the wedding down. Just a bit. Maybe remove the fireworks, or... Abuka didn't even let her finish. Ada, he said, his voice stiff, don't embarrass me today. My uncles are coming from far. My mother has gone out of her way to organize everything. We've spent money. You can't start changing plans because of some nonsense dream. He kissed her cheek before leaving the room. But it felt more like a warning than affection. Now seated inside, waiting for the groom's family to come in, Adaobi felt like a lamb dressed for sacrifice. The front door opened, and voices rose. "Welcome. You are all welcome, oh." Ibuka's family had arrived, his parents, uncles, and aunties. The living room filled quickly. Chairs were set in a half circle. Cola nuts were presented. Bitter cola. Palm wine. Adaobi's mother spoke first, introducing her family. Then Ibuka's father took the floor, thanking them and praising Adaobi. "She is a flower in the garden," he said, "and we have come to pluck her with respect." Laughter followed. The bride price list was read aloud. Wrappers, salt, bags of rice, yam tubers, jewelry, and a symbolic amount of money. Then, one of Ibuka's uncles joked, "We hope this one will not run away on the wedding day, oh." The room roared with laughter again. But Adaobi didn't laugh. She was staring at the window, because outside, near the gate, she saw her. The madwoman, standing, staring, not blinking. The same one from the market. She looked directly at Adaobi through the window, her mouth moving slowly as if reciting something. Her hands were raised in the air, shaking like branches in the wind. Adaobi's heart jumped. She stood up sharply, nearly knocking her chair over. Everyone turned. "Adaobi," her mother whispered. "What is it?" But before she could speak, the madwoman disappeared into the street, swallowed by the crowd. Adaobi sat back down, trembling. She didn't say a word for the rest of the meeting. But in her heart, a terrible feeling was rising, like something was building up beneath the ground, just waiting for the wedding to begin. Adaobi stood in front of the mirror, frozen. The white wedding gown sparkled under the light, beads sewn carefully along the edges, lace covering her arms, and a long flowing veil trailing behind her. It was the dress every bride in Ali City dreamed of, custom-made from Italy, paid in full by Ibuka's elder sister, who had flown in from Canada just for the wedding. But Adaobi wasn't smiling. She was shaking. Her makeup artist was still humming quietly as she applied final touches. Her maid of honor, Nana, was filming snippets for Instagram. But none of them saw the shadow in Adaobi's eyes. She had seen the madwoman again, this time just before dawn. In the dream, Adaobi was standing in the middle of a church aisle, dressed in her wedding gown. She turned to look behind her. No one was there. No groom. No guests. Just silence. Then the door at the back of the church opened, and smoke rushed in. And there she was again, the madwoman dressed in black, crawling slowly on all fours, her eyes bleeding, her mouth whispering the same words again and again. "Your wedding will be your funeral, unless you keep it simple." Adaobi had woken up screaming. But now she stood before the mirror, pretending everything was fine. Outside the hotel room, she could hear the sounds of excitement. Horns blaring. Drummers warming up. Voices shouting instructions. The convoy was getting ready to drive to the church. Nana tapped her shoulder. "Babe, are you okay? You haven't smiled all morning." "I'm fine," Adaobi whispered. "You sure?" She hesitated, then nodded. But as she turned back to the mirror, she gasped. Behind her, in the reflection, she saw someone standing by the curtain. A shadow. A figure. She turned around quickly. No one was there. She blinked hard. Was her mind playing tricks? No. Something wasn't right. The air felt too cold. The light bulbs were flickering faintly, though there was no power cut. And somewhere deep in her chest, she felt it, a warning. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. A loud, urgent knock. Nana ran to open it. It was one of Ibuka's cousins, panting. "We need to go now," he said. "Ibuka's mother is shouting. The guests are waiting. We're running late." "I'm coming," Adaobi said quietly. But inside, she was screaming. As Nana helped her lift the hem of her gown, she whispered to herself, "Please, Grandma, if you're warning me, show me what to do." And at that moment, a strange thing happened. The light bulb above her head popped. Glass scattered on the floor. Everyone screamed. Even the cousin stepped back, crossing himself. "Is this a sign?" he asked. Adaobi didn't answer. She was already walking out the door. Each step she took felt heavier. Each drumbeat outside felt like thunder. And as the door shut behind her, her mother, sitting quietly in the corner, finally whispered what she had been afraid to say all morning. "I should have stopped this wedding." The church was packed. Not a single pew was empty. Guests lined the back wall, fanning themselves with program sheets. The air was hot and thick with perfume, sweat, and excitement. Children sat on their mothers' laps. Aunties whispered gossip. The choir practiced in low tones. Everything looked perfect. But not to Adeobi. She stood just outside the church, inside the bridal car, her hands cold and stiff. Her heart pounded like the talking drums outside. The white dress now felt like a trap, tight and suffocating. Her veil trembled slightly even though there was no wind. Nana leaned in through the window. "You look stunning. Are you ready?" Adeobi didn't answer. She was looking at the church doors. Just beyond them, the long aisle awaited her, decorated with roses, lined with lanterns, shining like something out of a movie. But in her head, the dream played again, that same aisle empty, smoke creeping in, and the madwoman crawling toward her. She shook her head sharply. "Snap out of it. This is your wedding day." A voice called out, "Bride, let's go." The church doors creaked open. The organist started playing. "Here Comes the Bride" floated out through the speakers, cheerful and proud. The guests turned their heads, ready to see the star of the day. And slowly, Adeobi stepped out of the car. She placed her hand gently in her uncle's. Her father had died when she was 13, and together, they began the slow march down the aisle. Every step echoed. Click, clack, click, clack. People smiled, phones flashed, videos rolled, but Adeobi saw none of it. Her eyes were fixed ahead at Ibuka, who stood in front of the altar, dressed in a white tuxedo, smiling confidently. She wanted to smile back. She tried, but something was wrong. As she walked closer, she noticed something no one else did. The priest was not the priest they had arranged. The man at the altar had the same robe, the same cross, but his face was unfamiliar. His eyes were too black, his smile too wide. She leaned closer to Nana and whispered, "Who is that priest?" Nana blinked. "Isn't that Father Emmanuel?" "No, that's not him." But before Nana could respond, something unbelievable happened. The lights in the church blinked once, then again, then went off completely. Gasps filled the church. The organ music stopped. Someone shouted, "Is it Nipa?" But then the lanterns lining the aisle all lit up at once, without anyone touching them. A soft wind blew through the closed windows, strong enough to ruffle the pages of the hymn books. Candles flickered. And somewhere very close, Adeobi heard it. A whisper. "Go back." She turned sharply. No one was behind her. But the voice came again. "Go back. Leave now. Before it begins." Suddenly, the lantern nearest her burst. Glass flying, flames flashing. Screams rang out. The crowd stood up in panic. Ibuka rushed forward, grabbing her. "What's happening? Are you okay?" But Adeobi couldn't speak. She was staring at the fake priest, whose eyes were now glowing faintly red. No one else noticed. Just her. And then the madwoman appeared at the back of the church. Standing quietly, she raised her hand and pointed at Adeobi. "Your grandmother warned you." The church was no longer calm. A strange tension filled the air. Something thick and invisible. Something that made the skin crawl and the heart beat faster. Adeobi stood still at the altar, holding Ibuka's arm, but she felt far from safe. She looked back toward the crowd. The madwoman had vanished, just like smoke. "Did you see her?" Adeobi whispered. "See who?" Ibuka asked, confused. "What's wrong with you?" Before she could answer, the lights came back on with a loud snap. The guests clapped, laughing nervously. "Nipa and their Walla," someone shouted. But Adeobi wasn't laughing. Her eyes shifted back to the priest. He was staring at her, unblinking, like he knew her, like he knew everything. He stepped forward to begin the ceremony. His voice was deeper than normal. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here to join this man and woman in holy matrimony." His words were perfect. His tone was not. Adeobi kept her eyes on him. The longer she stared, the less human he looked. His lips didn't match the words exactly. And once, just once, she swore she saw his face change for a split second. From a young man to an old woman. A woman with hollow eyes and gray dreadlocks. Adeobi gasped. Nana, now standing beside her, grabbed her hand. "You're sweating." Babe, you're scaring me. I don't think he's real, Adaobi said in a low voice. Nana looked at the priest. Who? That's the father. I saw him earlier in the vestry. But Adaobi was already slipping her hand from Ibuka's grip. I need air. Ibuka tried to stop her. Not now, not in the middle of the ceremony. I said I need air, she shouted, her voice echoing through the quiet church. Everyone turned. Shock painted every face. Adaobi's mother stood up in confusion. What's wrong with her? But Adaobi didn't stop. She turned and ran back down the aisle, her veil flying, her heels echoing loudly. She ran past friends, aunties, elders, and even the children who had been throwing flowers just moments ago. Outside, the sun had disappeared. A sudden cloud covered the sky. The wind was blowing strong and fast. But something was waiting. As Adaobi ran toward the church gates, she saw a figure blocking the exit. The madwoman. She wasn't smiling. She looked sad. Why didn't you listen? The woman said. She warned you. Your grandmother warned you. What do you mean? Adaobi cried. What warning? The woman raised one hand and pointed to Adaobi's chest. You carry the spirit of a bride who should never marry, she said. Your grandmother was the last to see it. She sealed it with prayers. But you broke the seal when you invited the spirits with loud music and too much celebration. Adaobi stared at her, trembling. I don't understand. The woman came closer. Your wedding is not your own. You are not the only bride here. And with that, the ground beneath Adaobi cracked slightly, just enough for her to feel the shake. The church bell began to ring by itself. And from behind her, she heard a second wedding song. Different. Not from the choir. This one was older. Slower. Sadder. Like a funeral dirge. Adaobi turned around slowly and saw herself. Another bride. Dressed in rags. Barefoot. Floating down the aisle. Coming straight for her. Adaobi could not move. She stood frozen at the gate of the church, her eyes locked on the other bride walking slowly toward her. The figure floated just inches above the ground, her feet never touching the earth. Her wedding gown was torn and dirty, soaked in something dark and thick. Her veil dragged behind her like a shadow, and her face looked exactly like Adaobi's. Not similar. Exactly the same. Nana came running out from the church behind her, shouting her name. Adaobi, what's going on? Why are you? She stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes widened in terror as she stared at the second bride. Oh my God! What is that? You can see her too? Adaobi whispered. Nana nodded slowly, trembling. Yes, I thought I was mad, but I can see her. The madwoman stood beside them, her voice low and calm. She's been waiting. She is the spirit that was cursed long ago. Your grandmother stopped her from claiming you. But now the door is open. Adaobi turned sharply. What do you mean? What door? The one between the living and the dead, the madwoman said. When you ignore the warning, when you call the drums, the dancers, the feast, you invited more than guests. You invited her. The spirit bride moved closer now. People inside the church began to scream again. Some rushed out. Others dropped to their knees, praying loudly. A few aunties fainted. Children cried. The priest, who was not really a priest, vanished in thin air. The church had turned into a place of chaos. Ibuka ran out, confused and sweating. What is going on here? Adaobi, come back. Who is that woman? But even he stopped when he saw the ghostly bride now standing just a few feet from Adaobi. The air around them turned ice cold. The ghost's lips moved. No one heard her words. But Adaobi understood. She wasn't speaking out loud. She was speaking inside Adaobi's head. You took my day. You took my joy. Now I take yours. Adaobi's legs gave way. She dropped to her knees, hands clutching her chest. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed. She couldn't breathe. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but she didn't understand why she was crying. Memories that weren't hers began to flash in her mind. A wedding in a village. A young bride dancing. A sudden fire. A scream. Chains. Grave. She was seeing the ghost past. She was living it. Adaobi. Nana screamed. Adaobi, talk to me. The madwoman knelt beside her and placed a hand on her head. She began to speak in a language no one had heard before. Her eyes rolled back. The wind picked up even more, blowing dust and dry leaves all around them. Then everything stopped. Completely. Even time. The spirit bride was now face to face with Adaobi, and in her hand, she held a broken necklace, one that Adaobi had never seen before, but knew belonged to her grandmother. You broke the circle, the spirit said. Now we are one. And with that, the ghost walked into Adaobi's body. Not through the front. Through her shadow. Adaobi screamed. Her voice didn't sound like hers anymore. It was deeper. Echoing. Two voices at once. The madwoman shouted, It's not too late. But the bride must choose. Choose what? Nana cried, shaking. She must choose between the wedding or her soul. The ground beneath Adaobi seemed to tremble as the ghost's presence filled her body. A heavy weight settled inside her chest, and her breath came in sharp, shallow gasps. Her hands shook uncontrollably. It felt as though someone else was pulling her strings, controlling her every movement. Nana watched, helpless, from a distance. Adaobi, she shouted, her voice trembling. Please, what's happening to you? Talk to me. Adaobi's head turned slowly, her eyes now dark and distant, no longer the lively brown they once were. They were filled with something else, a deep, hollow void, like someone lost in an eternal nightmare. I am not Adaobi, she said, but it wasn't her voice. It was a cold, echoing whisper that came from somewhere far inside her. Nana stepped back, horrified. What do you mean? Who are you? The spirit bride's face slowly began to emerge from Adaobi's features. It was a gradual process, like a mask being drawn over her, until Adaobi's face was completely replaced by the ghost's. The air grew colder still. You have to listen to me, the madwoman said urgently. Adaobi, you have to fight her. You have to break the curse. But Adaobi, or the spirit inside her, smiled a twisted smile. Fight? No. I want what is mine. The madwoman's eyes widened. She wants to take your name, your life, your future. She turned to Nana. She must choose the necklace or the name. The necklace is her protection. It is her grandmother's final gift. Without it, the curse will remain. Nana didn't understand. The necklace, she asked, looking desperately around. Where is it? What necklace? Before the madwoman could answer, Adaobi, still under the spirit's control, reached into her wedding dress, her fingers grazing the delicate lace. Slowly, she pulled out the necklace. It was silver, with an intricately designed pendant, an old carved charm that looked like it held a hidden secret. Nana gasped when she saw it. That's it. That's the necklace the madwoman was talking about. Adaobi, or the spirit, held the necklace out in front of her. This, she said in Adaobi's voice, but now it was cold, devoid of warmth. This trinket will stop me. It will stop us. No, the madwoman cried. It will protect you. Your grandmother wore it to keep the spirits away. It is the only thing that can sever the connection between you and her. Adaobi's fingers tightened around the necklace as she looked down at it. She stared at it for a long time, her gaze locked on the pendant, as if something within it were calling to her. The ghost inside her whispered, Throw it away. You don't need it. You are mine. But then something inside Adaobi, something deep, something she had almost forgotten, stirred. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. No matter the cost, you carry your name. Your legacy is stronger than anything. Adaobi gasped, her hand trembling as the necklace dangled between her fingers. It was true. She did have a choice. The spirit wanted to take everything from her, her name, her future, her life. But she could still fight. Adaobi raised the necklace higher, holding it above her head. I choose this, she whispered, her voice returning to its natural softness. I choose my name. The air grew heavy, and a sudden gust of wind whipped through the church, slamming the doors shut. The lights flickered violently. The spirit bride's face twisted in fury as Adaobi held the necklace to her chest. No, the spirit howled. You are mine. But Adaobi didn't back down. She clutched the necklace tightly and closed her eyes. She could feel the curse trying to pull her under, trying to steal her very soul. But the necklace, her grandmother's gift, seemed to glow with a faint light, pushing back the darkness, pushing back the spirit. The madwoman, who had been watching from a distance, nodded in approval. She has chosen, she murmured. Adaobi opened her eyes, and the spirit bride screamed in agony as she began to vanish, her form disintegrating into smoke and dust, leaving nothing behind but an echo of despair. And then, just as suddenly as it had all begun, everything stopped. The cold air disappeared. The wind died down. The tension in the church vanished. Adaobi was herself again, trembling but whole. Nana rushed to her side. "Adaobi, are you okay?" Adaobi nodded weakly, her hand still clutching the necklace. I don't know, but I'm here." She looked down at the necklace in her hand, and for the first time she felt the weight of its power. Her grandmother's legacy had saved her. But the fight wasn't over yet. Adaobi knew that the curse was never truly gone. She could still feel its remnants lingering, and the battle for her soul wasn't finished. Not yet. Adaobi sat down heavily on the steps of the church, her fingers still clutching the glowing necklace tightly. Her chest heaved with each breath, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was far from over. The ghost, the spirit bride, had been forced to leave her body, but something deep within Adaobi knew that the curse was not gone. It was only delayed. Nana stood beside her, her face pale with worry. "Adaobi, I don't understand. What did she mean when she said you had to choose?" Adaobi swallowed hard, trying to find the words to explain. The wind had stopped blowing, and the coldness that had consumed the church had finally lifted. But Adaobi could still feel something within her, a presence of heaviness. "It was a test," Adaobi said softly, her eyes focused on the necklace in her hands. "The spirit wanted to take my name, my legacy. She wanted to make me hers, to erase everything I am. My grandmother's name, my future, my life, all of it." Nana shivered at the thought, her eyes filled with fear. "But you chose the necklace. You chose yourself." Adaobi nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I had one. But the curse, it's still here. I can feel it." She paused, looking out into the distance, her gaze distant. "I'm not free." Just then, a voice interrupted their thoughts. "She's right." Both Adaobi and Nana turned quickly to see the madwoman standing before them, her tired eyes filled with sorrow. She had appeared out of nowhere, as if summoned by the very air that surrounded them. "She's not gone," the madwoman continued, her voice grave. "The curse is like a shadow. It waits. It always waits." Nana took a step back. "What do you mean?" "I thought if Adaobi chose the necklace, everything would be fine." The madwoman shook her head slowly. "The necklace was only the first step. A protection, yes. But the curse is older than you realize. It has roots, deep roots, spanning generations. Adaobi's grandmother trapped the spirit once, but she could never completely break the bond. That's why the spirit sought Adaobi. She knew the time would come when she could return." Adaobi's heart raced. "What are you saying? Are you saying that this will keep happening? That the curse will always follow me?" "Yes," the madwoman said softly. "It will always come for you, Adaobi. As long as you wear that necklace, the spirit will seek to claim you. But there is a price." Adaobi looked at the necklace in her hand again, the delicate silver chain glowing faintly in the dim light. "What price?" The madwoman's eyes met hers with a somber gaze. "To wear that necklace, to carry your grandmother's protection, you must make a sacrifice. The necklace has a cost. A heavy cost. If you wish to remain free, you will have to give something of yourself, something that cannot be returned." Nana frowned, confusion written on her face. What does she mean? What sacrifice? The madwoman did not answer immediately. Instead, she looked toward the church, where the frightened guests had gathered, staring in stunned silence. Some of them were whispering prayers. Others were still trembling from the shock of what they had witnessed. Adaobi felt a cold chill run down her spine as she realized what the madwoman was implying. "It's not just about the necklace," the madwoman said quietly. "It's about your future, Adaobi. The curse demands balance. If you choose to keep the necklace, you must give up something from your life, a part of you that is dear to you. It could be a memory. It could be a relationship. It could be your future, your chance at happiness." Nana gasped. "You can't mean that. You're telling Adaobi to sacrifice something she loves? For what?" "To be free," the madwoman said simply. "That's the price." Adaobi felt her stomach twist. She had already fought so hard to hold on to her life, her wedding, her dreams. Now she was being told that to truly be free, she had to lose something dear to her, something she could never get back. She looked down at the necklace again, feeling its weight in her hand. What would it be? Her wedding. Was that the price? The love she had for Ibuka? The bond she had with her family? Or perhaps the future she had always dreamed of? A memory tugged at her, one of her grandmother. The woman who had raised her, taught her everything she knew. The woman who had given her the necklace, telling her that it was the key to her protection, to her survival. Her grandmother had warned her of this moment. There is always a price, her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. Remember that, Adeobi. Always. Adeobi closed her eyes and breathed deeply. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her. The curse was not just a shadow, it was a force that demanded something in return. And she had to decide if she was willing to pay. But what was the right price? Her thoughts were interrupted by Nana's voice. Adeobi, please don't listen to her. There has to be another way. There has to be. Adeobi looked up, her heart heavy. I don't know, Nana. I don't know if there is another way. Adeobi's mind raced as the words of the madwoman hung heavily in the air. The wind had picked up again, swirling around the church, carrying with it the scent of rain and the weight of impending change. The ground beneath her feet seemed to tremble with every passing second. It was as though the earth itself was waiting for Adeobi to make her choice. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the madwoman, whose expression remained unreadable. Nana stood beside her, biting her lip in frustration, clearly not understanding the depth of the dilemma Adeobi now faced. Adeobi, Nana pleaded softly, don't listen to her. We can figure this out. There has to be another way. This curse is not real. It's all in your head. But Adeobi could feel it deep within her soul. The curse wasn't just a figment of her imagination, it was real. She had felt its power ever since the day her grandmother had given her the necklace. And now she understood. The curse was not simply a spiritual threat. It was a force that had been tied to her very existence, one that would always follow her until she made a sacrifice. But what was she supposed to give up? Her wedding? Her future with Ibuka? The love they had built over the years? She could feel her stomach twist at the thought. Everything she had worked for, everything she had dreamed of was at risk. If she chose to wear the necklace and keep the curse at bay, what would be the cost? Adeobi looked at Nana, who was now pleading with her, her eyes wide with concern. You have to trust me, Nana said. This isn't you. You can't let this madwoman control your life. But the madwoman's words echoed in Adeobi's mind, louder than Nana's comforting voice. The curse demands balance. If you choose to keep the necklace, you must give up something from your life, a part of you that is dear to you. Adeobi closed her eyes, trying to steady her thoughts. She had always been told that love conquers all. She had always believed that nothing could tear apart what she and Ibuka shared. But now, faced with the reality of the curse, Adeobi wasn't so sure. Why are you doing this? Adeobi asked the madwoman, her voice trembling. Why are you giving me these impossible choices? The madwoman's eyes softened for a moment, as if a flicker of understanding passed between them. Because I have seen this before. I have lived through the curse. I know what it takes to survive it. Then tell me, Adeobi said desperately, what should I do? How do I break free from this? The madwoman shook her head slowly. You cannot break free, Adeobi. Not entirely. You can only delay the inevitable. The curse will always come for you, as long as you hold on to that necklace. But the price of freedom is steep. And I will not lie to you. It will hurt. Adeobi felt a wave of despair wash over her. The weight of the decision threatened to crush her, and she wanted to run. To leave everything behind and forget the cursed necklace, forget the wedding, forget the curse. But she knew she couldn't. There was too much at stake. Is there a way to end it? Adeobi asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Can the curse ever truly be broken? The madwoman's gaze turned distant, her voice lowering. Perhaps. But it is not something you can do alone. The spirits, the ancestors, they are the ones who hold the power to end this curse. But they will demand a sacrifice from you, Adeobi. A great sacrifice. Sacrifice. Adeobi repeated, her heart racing. What kind of sacrifice? The madwoman did not answer right away. Instead, she looked toward the horizon, where dark clouds were gathering, signaling an approaching storm. That is something you must find out for yourself. Only you can decide what it is worth. Only you can choose the price you are willing to pay. Adaobi felt a deep sense of foreboding wash over her. She knew the madwoman was right. The curse wasn't just about the necklace, it was about her entire life, her future, and her destiny. The choice she made now would shape the rest of her life. And there was no turning back. As the storm clouds loomed closer, Adaobi turned to Nana, who was still watching her with worry. "I don't know what to do," Adaobi said, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to choose." Nana stepped closer, wrapping her arm around Adaobi for comfort. "Whatever you decide, Adaobi, I'm here for you. We will face this together. You don't have to carry this alone." Adaobi nodded, her heart heavy. "Thank you, Nana. But I think the time has come for me to face the curse. I need to know what it will cost me." The madwoman watched them both with an inscrutable expression. "The cost is not just about what you give up, Adaobi. It's about what you're willing to lose. The curse will test your love, your faith, your courage. But in the end, it is not the curse that will destroy you, it is your own choices." Adaobi stood up, her resolve beginning to solidify. She had no choice but to face the truth. The curse was not something she could escape. It was part of her, as much as the love she had for Ibuka, as much as the dreams she had for their future. The question was not whether she could escape it, but what she was willing to sacrifice to survive. "I will find a way," Adaobi said softly, her voice steady. "I will face whatever comes. I will protect my future." The madwoman nodded solemnly. "Then you are ready." The storm that had been brewing overhead finally unleashed its fury. Heavy rain began to pour, drenching the streets of the city. Adaobi and Nana sought shelter under a nearby shop awning, but the tension in Adaobi's chest was suffocating. She could still feel the weight of the curse pressing against her heart, her grandmother's ominous words ringing in her ears. "The spirits are watching. The ground is angry. You must be careful, Adaobi." The rain pounded against the tin roofs and concrete sidewalks, creating an eerie rhythmic sound that matched the pounding of Adaobi's heart. Her thoughts swirled like the storm clouds above. There was no denying it, she was in the thick of it now. There was no turning back. Nana glanced at her, her face creased with concern. "Adaobi, you're scaring me. What did that woman mean by, the spirits will demand a sacrifice? What kind of sacrifice?" "I don't know," Adaobi whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of the rain. "But I have to find out. I have to understand why this is happening to me. Why my grandmother cursed my wedding." Nana looked around nervously, as though afraid someone might be listening to their conversation. "You can't seriously be thinking about going through with this, right? The curse. I don't know if it's real, but what if it is? What if it's too late for us to stop it?" Adaobi closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on her. "I don't have a choice, Nana. I can feel it. The curse is real. It's been following me since my grandmother gave me the necklace. And now the madwoman, she's warned me. She said the spirits will come for me if I don't make a sacrifice. But why you?" Nana asked, her voice filled with confusion. "Why your wedding? You don't deserve this. You've been so careful. You've done everything right." Adaobi didn't answer right away. The truth was, she didn't know why it was her. Maybe it was because her grandmother had cursed her long before she even realized it. Maybe it was because the spirits had been waiting for her to make a decision, a choice that would either redeem her or destroy everything she had ever known. "I have to do something, Nana," Adaobi said quietly. "I can't just ignore it anymore. It's getting worse. The dreams, the warnings, it's all too real." Nana sighed and placed a hand on Adaobi's shoulder. "I'll be here with you, no matter what happens. But if you do this, if you choose to go down this path, you have to be prepared. There will be consequences. The spirits don't give second chances." "I know," Adaobi said softly, her gaze distant. "But I've already lost so much. My wedding is supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and now it's become a nightmare. I have to take control of it before it controls me." Just then, a voice broke through their conversation, a voice that made Adaobi's blood run cold. "You've made the right choice, Adaobi." Both she and Nana turned to find the madwoman standing in front of them, drenched but unfazed by the rain. Her eyes were dark, her expression unreadable. She was holding something in her hand, a small pouch tied with string, the contents of which jingled softly as she moved. "I knew you would come to this decision," the madwoman continued, her voice steady and calm. "The curse is not something you can outrun. It will find you, no matter where you hide. But now that you've accepted it, now that you're ready to make a sacrifice, you must be prepared for the consequences. Adeobi felt a chill run through her body as she looked at the madwoman. What do you want from me? She asked, her voice shaking. The madwoman's lips curled into a slight smile. It's not about what I want, Adeobi. It's about what you are willing to give up to protect the life you have left. The curse is a test of your love, your commitment, your very soul. And the spirits will come for you, whether you're ready or not. Adeobi swallowed hard. What kind of sacrifice do the spirits want? The madwoman held out the small pouch, her eyes locking with Adeobi's. This is the key, she said. Take it. You will know when the time is right. You will know when to make the sacrifice. Adeobi hesitated, then reached out and took the pouch from the madwoman's hand. It was surprisingly light, yet she could feel an energy emanating from it, a strange power that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her own heartbeat. Nana looked from Adeobi to the madwoman, then back at Adeobi. What is this? She asked, her voice full of uncertainty. It's the beginning of the end, the madwoman replied cryptically. The spirits will demand a price, and you, Adeobi, will be the one to pay it. With those final words, the madwoman turned and walked away, disappearing into the rain as quickly as she had appeared. Adeobi stood frozen, the pouch in her hand, her mind racing. Nana grabbed her arm, pulling her out of her daze. Adeobi, what just happened? What did she give you? I don't know, Adeobi whispered, staring down at the pouch in her hands. But I have to find out. I have to face this curse, and whatever the spirits want from me. The rain had stopped, but the tension in the air had only grown. Adeobi knew that her wedding day was fast approaching, and with it, the full force of the curse. But now, with the pouch in her hands, she felt a sense of determination she hadn't known before. She was no longer running from the curse. She was going to face it head-on, no matter the cost. The day of the wedding had arrived. The city of Ali buzzed with excitement, the streets lined with brightly colored decorations, and the air thick with the aroma of street food and freshly baked cakes. It was supposed to be a joyous occasion, a day to celebrate Adeobi's union with the love of her life, Chike. But the heaviness that had settled over her heart since that fateful encounter with a madwoman made her feel like she was walking through a dream that would soon turn into a nightmare. She stood in front of the mirror in her bridal suite, gazing at her reflection. The dress was beautiful, white and laced with intricate designs, and the beads sparkled under the soft light of the room. Her hair had been styled perfectly, her makeup flawless. She looked every bit the radiant bride. But her eyes betrayed her fear. Adeobi was supposed to be happy. This was her wedding day, the day she'd been dreaming about since she was a little girl. Yet all she could think of was the madwoman's warning, the spirits, and the curse her grandmother had placed upon her. The pouch the madwoman had given her lay heavy in her hand, hidden inside her bridal bouquet. As the minutes ticked by, the sound of the wedding drums began to echo through the city. The music, once so joyful and celebratory, now felt like a death march. Adeobi's heart raced with every beat. She couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was going to happen, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Are you ready, Adeobi? Nana's voice called from the door, snapping Adeobi from her thoughts. She turned to see her best friend standing there, a wide grin on her face, but there was concern in her eyes. Nana had been there with her through it all, the preparations, the excitement, the tension, but she could feel it too. Something was wrong. I don't know if I'm ready, Adeobi confessed, her voice barely a whisper. Something feels off. I feel like I'm walking into a trap. Nana walked into the room and placed a hand on Adeobi's shoulder. I know you're scared, but you've been planning this wedding for months. Chike loves you. This is your day. You can't let fear take it away from you. Adeobi looked at her friend, her face filled with doubt. You don't understand. There's something I have to do, something I don't fully understand. The madwoman's warning, my grandmother's curse, it's all connected, and I can't shake the feeling that it's going to ruin everything. Nana's smile faded, replaced by a serious expression. Adeobi, I know you've been through a lot, and I'm here for you no matter what, but you can't let this consume you. You're about to marry the man you love. This day is about you, not curses or warnings. Adeobi's chest tightened. She wanted to believe Nana, but how could she? Everything felt wrong. She could hear the drums growing louder, signaling the arrival of the guests, the star of the ceremony. Her thoughts raced. There was no way she could back out now. Not with everything that had been planned, not with Chike waiting for her at the altar. But there was also the weight of the curse. Would the spirits really come for her? What would they take? What was she supposed to sacrifice? I'll go through with it, Adaobi said, her voice steady, though uncertainty still lingered in her eyes. But I won't ignore the warnings. I'll be ready to do whatever it takes to protect us. Nana nodded, though her expression was one of concern. I don't know what you're talking about, Adaobi, but if you think something is going to happen today, just remember, whatever it is, you're not alone. I'll be right by your side. Adaobi gave her a weak smile, grateful for her friend's unwavering support. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. This was it. The moment had arrived. There was no turning back now. As she walked down the hallway toward the ceremony, her eyes fell upon the bouquet of flowers in her hands. The small pouch from the madwoman was nestled within the petals. Adaobi's fingers curled around it, as though seeking reassurance from the object. She wasn't sure if the pouch would hold the answer to the curse, or if it was just a symbol of her fear. But she knew one thing for certain: the spirits were watching, and she would soon find out what they wanted from her. The wedding hall was a beautiful sight, filled with vibrant colors, candles, and laughter. Guests mingled, exchanging pleasantries, admiring the decorations. The sound of music filled the air, and Adaobi's heart skipped a beat. This was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, yet it felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the inevitable. Chike stood at the altar, looking handsome in his white agbada, his face beaming with love and joy. But as Adaobi walked toward him, her eyes locked on his, and for the first time, she saw something unfamiliar in his expression, a flicker of doubt. For a split second, she wondered if he knew what was about to happen, if he could sense the curse that had been hanging over her. But then the moment passed, and he smiled at her, holding out his hand. Adaobi reached for his hand, but just as their fingers touched, a cold wind blew through the hall, extinguishing the candles in an instant. The guests gasped, murmuring in surprise. The music faltered, and for a moment, the room was plunged into darkness. A chill ran down Adaobi's spine. The spirits were here. The silence stretched on, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing. And then, from the darkness, a voice low and menacing echoed through the hall. Adaobi. Her heart stopped. The voice was unmistakable. It was her grandmother's. Adaobi stood frozen, her heart hammering in her chest. The voice of her grandmother echoed in the silence, sending waves of terror through her body. It was a sound she hadn't heard in years, but she recognized it instantly. Grandmother. Adaobi whispered, her voice trembling. The room around her seemed to shift, the walls narrowing as though the entire hall had closed in. The guests, still frozen in place, looked around in confusion. The sudden chill in the air made everyone uneasy. Chike, standing beside her, was the first to move. His face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. He turned to look at her, searching for an explanation. Adaobi, what's going on? What was that? But Adaobi couldn't answer. She could feel the weight of her grandmother's presence, as though the very air had thickened. The world seemed to have stopped moving around her, and all she could hear was the echo of the voice in her mind. The voice continued, low and rasping, filled with ancient knowledge. Your wedding, Adaobi. It will be your funeral. You cannot escape the price of your choices. The spirits are angry, and they have come for what is theirs. Adaobi's knees nearly buckled beneath her. The words she had feared to hear were now spilling from the air around her. The spirits her grandmother had warned her about, the same spirits the madwoman in the market had spoken of, had come to claim their due. No, this can't be happening, Adaobi murmured, her fingers tightening around the bouquet, where the cursed pouch rested hidden among the flowers. She felt her pulse quicken as panic surged through her. Shoo, Adaobi, Chike said, gently pulling her close. He looked around, trying to make sense of the strange and frightening atmosphere. Don't listen to it. It's just your nerves. You're here with me. You're safe. But Adaobi could barely hear him over the pounding of her own heart. Was this the price of her grandmother's curse? Was this what she had been warned about all those years ago? The spirits were here, and there was no way to stop them. What do you want? Adaobi managed to whisper into the silence, her voice barely audible but full of desperate resolve. The air seemed to grow even colder, and then, as though the shadows themselves were alive, something shifted. The room grew darker, the lights flickering. The guests, who had been silent until now, began to murmur in confusion, their discomfort turning into fear. They could sense it too. The strange energy in the air, the unexplainable chill that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. The voice spoke again, but this time it wasn't just her grandmother's. It was the voice of Minnie. The price, Sadaobi, is not just your wedding. It is the life you lead. You must decide. Choose the path of sacrifice or face the wrath of the spirits. Sadaobi closed her eyes, trying to block out the whispers that surrounded her. The world felt unreal, as if she was trapped in some twisted nightmare. She could feel Chaik's arm around her waist, trying to hold her steady, but even his touch seemed distant now. Her mind raced. The spirits had come, but for what? What did they want from her? Why now, on the day that was supposed to be the happiest of her life? Her thoughts spiraled as she recalled the madwoman's words. If it's too loud, if there's too much, something will go wrong. Was this the too much she had ignored? The grand ceremony, the extravagant feasts, the endless decorations, had all of it angered the spirits? She had been so focused on making everything perfect, on creating a wedding that would leave everyone talking for years to come. But now the cost seemed too high. The weight of her grandmother's curse hung heavily over her, like a shadow that she could not outrun. Her hands trembled as she reached for the small pouch hidden in the bouquet. It was warm now, a stark contrast to the cold that filled the room. She had been carrying it all day, ever since the madwoman had given it to her. But now she understood. This was what she needed. This was the key to breaking the curse. I have to do something, Sadaobi whispered to herself, more to steady her nerves than anything else. Chaik noticed the change in her demeanor and squeezed her shoulder. Sadaobi, whatever it is, I'm here for you. We'll face this together. I won't let anything happen to you. But Sadaobi didn't respond. Her mind was made up. The madwoman's warning, the curse, the spirits, they were all part of this moment. She had to find a way to make things right, or she might lose everything. The whispers grew louder, the voices now almost deafening in her ears. Sadaobi raised the bouquet, clutching the pouch tightly, and in one swift motion, she ripped it open. For a moment, nothing happened. The room was still, the guests still frozen in fear, Chaik still holding her, waiting for the next step. Then a soft glow began to emerge from the pouch. It wasn't light exactly, but a strange, warm energy that seemed to pulse from within the fabric. The glow grew brighter, almost blinding, and for a moment, Sadaobi thought she saw figures materialize in the air around her. Figures with glowing eyes, shadows that seemed to pulse with life. The spirits, they were here. You have chosen, a voice boomed, louder than the rest, as though the very air had spoken. Now you must face the price of your choice. Sadaobi's heart raced, her body trembling, but she held her ground. She wasn't sure what would happen next, but she was ready to find out. Her grandmother's curse, the madwoman's warning, it had all led to this moment. The spirits had come to claim their price, but Sadaobi wasn't sure if she could pay it. Would Chaik still be by her side? Would her wedding be her funeral, as the spirits had foretold? Or was there still a chance for her to break free from the curse and save her life, her marriage, and her future? The voices grew louder, but Sadaobi was no longer afraid. She had come this far. Whatever the price was, she would face it. The glow from the pouch spiraled into the air like smoke from ancient firewood, circling Sadaobi and Chaik where they stood, locking them in a moment that felt both sacred and terrifying. The guests in the wedding hall could see it too now. This was no longer something only Sadaobi felt. Something unnatural was happening before their eyes. People began whispering prayers. Others grabbed their children and made for the exit, but the doors would not open. They rattled, they shook, but they would not yield. Panic began to rise in the room. But Sadaobi, she stood still. Very still. She wasn't sure what held her in place. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was something older than fear. A knowing deep in her bones that if she ran now, everything would be lost forever. The spirits had spoken. And now, they wanted an answer. What sacrifice will you give, child of Nina? The voice thundered. You broke the pact. You chose noise over silence. You chose flesh over spirit. You chose celebration over humility. But the bloodline of your grandmother carries debts. Debts that cannot go unpaid. Sadaobi's lips trembled. Her grandmother, Nina, had been a strong woman. Everyone in Ali remembered her as the herbalist who helped the poor, who bathed babies in moonlight, who spoke to spirits and sang songs that could make rain fall. But they also remembered her secrets. her madness, her sudden death that no one explained. And now her shadow was here in full force. I didn't know, Adaobi finally whispered, dropping to her knees. Her voice cracked. I didn't know there was a pact. I didn't know I was part of something ancient. I just wanted a wedding. I just wanted to be happy. A cold wind swept across the hall. Happiness without honor brings hunger to the land, the voice answered. Your grandmother defied the gods. She healed what was cursed. She broke a seal that was never hers to touch. And you, her blood, have drawn attention back to your line. The spirits must be fed. The balance must be restored. Chike tried to pull Adaobi to her feet, but she wouldn't move. Her face was wet with tears. She was beginning to understand. This wasn't just about her. Her wedding was a door. A gate between the living and the dead. The loudness, the wealth, the excess. It had stirred something that was meant to sleep. Now it was awake. And it was hungry. What do you want from me? Adaobi cried out. My life? My marriage? My child. The spirits were silent. Then came the whisper again. The child. Adaobi gasped. Her hand flew to her stomach, though she had no bump yet. Only her mother and Nana knew. She was barely 6 weeks along. No, she said quickly, shaking her head. No, you can. But the voice cut her off. A child conceived under a broken covenant is not yours alone. The child is born of 2 worlds. If you want peace, you must return what was taken. Blood for blood. Silence for noise. Sacrifice for celebration. Chike's eyes widened. What child? Adaobi. Were they saying? Adaobi's mouth opened, but no words came. She was choking on fear, on confusion, on guilt, on the truth she hadn't shared yet. The spirits pressed in closer. The air thinned. The room darkened. Choose, Adaobi. The living or the unborn. Your heart or your womb. This wedding or the next world. Choose before the light returns. The bouquet in her hand burst into flames, not fire that burned, but fire that glowed blue and white like ancestral moonlight. It consumed the lace, the ribbons, the glittering beads, leaving only the small pouch untouched. Still glowing, still pulsing. Adaobi felt her knees wobble. Was this the price? Was this the sacrifice? Her baby? The guests began to scream as the ceiling cracked slightly above them, dust sprinkling onto the marble floor. It felt like the whole building was trembling now. The spirits weren't bluffing. Choose, the voices roared. Adaobi raised her head, her face pale, her mouth dry. Her eyes met Chike's. I don't know what to do. But Chike, ever steady, pulled her close and said something she never expected. Then let them take me. Adaobi blinked. What? I'll be the sacrifice, Chike said firmly. If it saves you and our child. The air fell silent. And then the spirits laughed. A terrible, echoing sound that shook the walls and chilled every soul in the room. He does not carry the curse. He cannot pay the price. Only the bloodline can feed the wound. Adaobi dropped to the floor completely, tears staining her dress. She had wanted a day of joy, a day of beauty. But now she had to choose between the life within her and the spirits that demanded blood. The glowing pouch floated in the air, spinning slowly above her head, waiting. Would she surrender the baby? Would she offer her life instead? Would she call back the madwoman and beg her for another way? Or was there still one secret about her grandmother that Adaobi had not yet discovered? The hall was silent, but the clock was ticking. The ground beneath the wedding hall continued to tremble, as if something beneath it was clawing its way out. Dust danced in the air like restless spirits. The lights flickered, and in the center of it all, Adaobi still knelt, staring at the glowing pouch, waiting for a voice, a miracle, or an answer. But deep down, she knew. This wasn't just about the wedding. This wasn't just about her unborn child. This was about Nina, her grandmother. The woman everyone feared and admired in equal measure. The woman whose shrine had been destroyed after her death, whose stories were buried under gossip, shame, and whispered warnings. Adaobi rose shakily to her feet. Her voice was quiet, but filled with something new, purpose. I need to go to her house. Chike's face twisted in confusion. What? No. Adaobi, are you hearing yourself? You're not well. I have to, she interrupted. I need to find what she left behind. The spirits won't stop until I know the full truth. There's something in her house, Chike. Something she hid. I don't know how I know it, but I do. And somehow the moment she said that, the tremors stopped. The ceiling stilled. The pouch stopped glowing. It didn't fall. It simply vanished into smoke. It was as though the spirits had paused, waiting to see if she would actually go. And she would. 2 hours later, in front of Nina's abandoned home, the house was still standing, barely. It sat on the edge of Ollie's old quarter, where the streetlights barely worked, and the air smelled of old rain and forgotten promises. Nobody came here anymore. Children crossed the road when walking past. Everyone said the house was cursed. Adaobi stood in front of the wooden door, vines crawling along its edges, the key long lost. But she didn't need a key. The door creaked open at her touch. Dust choked the air inside. Spiderwebs hung from every corner like draped curtains. On the wall, her grandmother's old black and white photos stared down at her. Nina in her prime, holding a calabash, standing beside a huge tree, or smiling faintly in front of the river shrine. She knew, Adaobi whispered. She moved slowly, her eyes scanning everything. The shelves were full of old jars, some with dried herbs, some with dead insects, and one with what looked like dried tears trapped in resin. Her grandmother's room was untouched. Her staff leaned against the wall. The air felt heavy here, as if Nina was still watching. Then Adaobi saw it. A crack in the floor, right under the rug that looked newer than everything else in the room. She yanked the rug away. There was a small wooden hatch. Heart pounding, she lifted it. Inside was a box wrapped in palm leaves. It smelled like ash and secrets. She brought it out slowly and sat down on the floor. The moment her fingers touched the lid, a cold breeze blew through the room. She opened it. Inside were letters. Hundreds. All addressed to my unborn grandchild. Tears filled her eyes. Nina had known. She had seen this day coming. She picked the first letter. It was yellow with age, but the ink still danced across the page like a living thing. My child, if you are reading this, it means I failed to stop the curse. Forgive me. I thought I could outsmart the spirits. I thought by healing the wrong child, I could silence them. But I was wrong. They don't forget. They don't forgive. They said my granddaughter would suffer. They said her joy would turn to mourning. Unless she learns the story. Unless she knows what I buried under the Irako tree. Go there, Adaobi. Go to the tree. Only then will you understand what must be done. The rest of the letter trembled in her hands. The Irako tree. The one behind the river shrine. Nina had buried something there. Something more than a letter. A key? A secret? Body? Adaobi stood up, her heart racing. She had to go. She had to know. Behind her, the box snapped shut on its own, sealing itself like a coffin. Outside, thunder cracked across the Ollie skyline, though no rain followed. The spirits were watching, waiting. She was running out of time. The sky over Ollie City was cloudless, but the wind howled as if mourning something lost. Adaobi stood at the edge of the old river shrine, her heart thudding like a drum in her chest. She had never been this deep into the city's forgotten zones, places people only whispered about. The Irako tree loomed before her, its bark twisted and blackened with age. Thick roots curled over the earth like warning fingers. It stood taller than any tree around it, untouched by time, untouched by man. And at its base, something glowed faintly in the moonlight. A single red bead. Her grandmother's favorite. Adaobi stepped forward. Each crunch of dry leaves beneath her sandals sounded like a gunshot in the silent night. The wind picked up, spinning the fallen leaves into brief cyclones around the tree. She could feel them now, the spirits. They weren't hiding anymore. They were awake. She dropped to her knees and began to dig. The ground was soft, too soft, as if something had disturbed it recently. She used her hands at first, then a broken piece of which she found lying near the shrine. Her fingers stung. Dirt caked her nails. The air grew colder with each inch she dug. Then she hit something. Box. But this wasn't like the one in her grandmother's room. This was older, heavier, bound with cowrie shells and sealed with a faded cloth, still damp with something that smelled like palm oil and blood. She hesitated. The tree groaned above her. The wind stopped. The night went completely silent. With trembling fingers, she unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a doll. But not just any doll. It had real hair, coarse and black. Its eyes were shut, stitched together with red thread, and its mouth was sealed with a broken ring. Adeobi gasped. It was her mother's wedding ring. She recognized the bent shape. Her father had told her it got damaged during the car accident that killed her mother. What was it doing here? She picked up the doll. A shriek filled the air. It wasn't from her. It came from the tree. The bark cracked. Birds flew off from nowhere. The roots began to tremble. Adeobi stumbled back, still clutching the doll. Her vision blurred. Suddenly, images filled her mind. Her grandmother. Younger. Running through a burning compound. Baby in her hands. Spirits chasing her, faceless, furious. Promise broken. A deal made. A child swapped for silence. Adeobi screamed. Her head ached. Her eyes burned. She fell to the ground, curling around the doll. That was when she heard the voice. Soft. Well, you were never supposed to marry Adeobi. That union was the final key. You have to unbind it, or the child will not survive. Adeobi opened her eyes. The tree was still. The doll in her hands no longer felt cursed, but heavy, like it carried the burden of truth. What had Nina done? What promise had she made? And what price did she, Adeobi, have to pay to undo it? She rose to her feet, the doll still in her arms. She wasn't going home. Not yet. She needed to find a shrine keeper. The one who had vanished years ago after Nina's death. He knew the rest. He had to. Ali City had secrets buried under its streets, and tonight, Adeobi was chasing one of them. She moved quickly through the dark alleyways that wrapped behind the shrine like old veins. The doll was still in her bag, wrapped tight in her scarf, though its weight seemed heavier with every step. She had no idea what it meant to unbind the union like the voice had warned, but she knew someone who might. Elder Matsi Bako, the last known keeper of the river shrine. He had vanished after Nina's burial, just disappeared. Some said he had gone mad. Others whispered that the spirits had taken him. But Nana once mentioned she'd seen him living near the edge of Elika Bridge, deep in the slums where few people dared to live. That was where Adeobi was heading now. The further she walked, the more the city changed. Tall buildings gave way to rusted zinc roofs and crumbling concrete. Generators buzzed. Dogs barked in the shadows. Fires lit up small corners where men played cards, and children dozed beside women frying akara. Everyone stared at her, her outfit too clean, her face too unfamiliar. But no one stopped her. Not even when she asked, "Please, do you know where Matsi Bako lives?" Most people shook their heads quickly, refusing to speak, until a little boy with one slipper pointed. That way. The house with the red cloth on the door. She nodded and gave him the only 500 naira in her bag. Thank you. He vanished into the darkness like a spirit himself. She approached the house. It was barely standing. Wooden planks leaned together like drunk men. The red cloth was there, tied tightly across the door. A warning. Protection. A curse? Adeobi took a deep breath and knocked. Nothing. She knocked again. Then a whisper floated from within. You carry her blood. The door creaked open on its own. Inside it was dark. Candles burned in strange corners. The air smelled of herbs, smoke, and old tears. Symbols had been drawn in chalk on the floor, some in circles, others in spirals. And in the middle of it all sat a man. Well, thin. Eyes white with blindness, but focused as if they still saw more than most. Matsi Bako? She asked, stepping forward carefully. He didn't move, but he nodded. You are Nina's seed, he said, and she has failed to contain what she awakened. Adeobi lowered herself to her knees. She left this, she said, pulling out the doll and placing it gently before him. His hand trembled as he touched it. He exhaled slowly. The curse was sealed when she tried to protect you. She gave the spirit someone else's child. They waited. They watched. And now you've given yourself to the very binding she tried to hide from. Adeobi's head spun. What do I do? He looked at her for a long time. You must find the true bride, he whispered. The one who was meant to marry Chike. The girl whose soul was stolen. Only then can the curse break. Only then can your womb be free. Adayabi's breath caught in her throat. Chaik? There was another woman? What do you mean? She asked. Who is she? Where do I find her? But Matsubako's eyes had gone distant, as if something or someone was pulling him away. He reached out blindly and pressed something into her palm. A key, cold, rusted, and shaped like a cross. You'll find her, he whispered, his voice now fading. Where the river meets the forest. Ask the water. They remember everything. And with that, he slumped forward. Silent, still breathing, but lost in some trance. Adayabi stumbled back, heart racing. The true bride? Had her grandmother switched destinies to protect her? Was her entire love story with Chaik never hers to begin with? The spirits hadn't just been angry. They had been robbed. And now they wanted their due. She clutched the key tightly. Tomorrow, she would find the river's mouth. But tonight, she needed answers from Chaik. Because if what Matsubako said was true, then the man she loved might not have been meant for her at all. The early morning mist settled thick over the city of Ali, wrapping the streets in silence. Even the loud buses and noisy market women seemed to whisper today, as if the city knew something was coming. Something dark. Adayabi stood at the edge of River Ibo, where water met land and stories were said to come alive. She had followed Matsubako's instructions, holding the rusted key in her right hand and the curse doll in her left. Her sandals sank into the wet, soft mud as she stepped closer to the water's edge. This was no ordinary river. It had a heartbeat. She could feel it. The air shimmered above the water like heat waves. Birds flew past quickly, avoiding the area like it carried disease. And yet, the river was calm, waiting. Show me, Adayabi whispered. Please. She knelt and dipped the key into the water. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the water rippled. Once, twice. Then it turned dark, black as charcoal. The trees around the river swayed without wind, and the surface of the water split like glass. A face rose from it. Not a human face. A woman, made of water and light. Her eyes glowed white. Her hair floated like seaweed, and her voice was like music carried by a storm. You come with what was hidden. You ask what cannot be given. Yet still, you carry her blood. Adayabi's voice trembled. Who is the true bride? Who was supposed to marry Chaik? The river spirit tilted her head. Then the water rose up behind her, forming pictures, like a living mirror. Adayabi saw it, years ago, before Chaik met her. A village girl named Abube, quiet, poor, but pure. She had been promised to Chaik through a covenant made between their families, sealed at her birth by spiritual hands Adayabi had never known existed. But then came Nina. She had seen visions, darkness, death. She had seen that if Chaik married Abube, he would die young. So Nina did what no one expected. She found a way to swap destinies. She performed a forbidden ritual. She transferred the marriage covenant from Abube to Adayabi, even though it meant Abube's soul would wander, trapped between worlds, neither dead nor alive. And the spirits had waited and watched. Now their patience had run out. The water spirit's voice thundered, though her face remained calm. Abube was promised to the river. Instead, you drank from the cup. The curse will break only when the broken one is found and her name restored. Adayabi fell to her knees. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Where is she? She cried. Where do I find her? The spirit stretched her hand out of the water and pointed to the forest. The cursed ones hide in plain sight, she said. Ask the deaf girl who speaks in her sleep. Ask the orphan with river eyes. She remembers. The river never forgets. Then the water crashed. The spirit vanished, and the river returned to stillness. Adayabi stood, heart pounding. The forest. The orphan with river eyes. She knew who that was. Ifeoma, the quiet girl who lived behind the church. People said she had been abandoned as a baby near this same river. Adayabi didn't wait. She turned and ran, her slippers slapping against the wet ground, the doll now burning in her arms like hot coal. She had no idea what she would find. But she knew Abube was alive, or what was left of her. And if Adayabi didn't find her soon, the wedding curse would become something worse.